The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Jameson Reynolds. I'm the Director of Marketing Strategy for the Library Corporation. Thank you for joining our Webinar Wednesday series. This is a series that we have been performing over the last few Wednesdays and will continue into the future, where we look to bring together product partners, thought leaders, trainers, product managers within our organization that we can talk about some of the concepts that we are working on, talk about maybe potentially trainings, a way for us to demonstrate where TLC is and where we are moving into the future. Today's session is titled Record Groupings, Clusters, and the Future of PACs. This session is being led by our Manager of Product Managers for Carl, Ebony Pacheco. Ebony, please take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us, and thanks to Jameson for the introduction. So we are going to talk about today Carl Connect Discovery and our PAC in Carl, and about record groupings and clusters. But first, let's start with some of those library buzzwords here. We want to have a little bit of definition. So we have FRBR, which is our functional requirements for bibliographic records. And in the end, or, at its deepest level, it's a conceptual entity relationship model developed by IFLA. So IFLA is one of those library organizations that goes through and kind of develops all those technological kind of foundational pieces of data there. What it does is it relates user tasks of retrieval and access in online library catalogs and bibliographic databases. And it represents a holistic approach to retrieval and access as relationships between entities provide links to navigate hierarchy of relationships. And then we have FRAD, which is functional requirements for authority data. Again, another relationship entity model developed, and it relates data recorded in library authority records to needs of users of those records and facilitates the sharing of that data. Then we have FRAD. So we're starting to get a little bit more into difficulty of saying some of these. But this is our functional requirements for subject authority data. Again, this is going to detail how entities that serve as subjects of intellectual or artistic endeavor can be related and controlled within the bibliographic universe. And it is intended to support global sharing and reuse of subject authority data. Now we get to my favorite, FRBR, which is FRBR object-oriented. Again, within here, it's a joint effort to establish a formal ontology intended to capture and represent the underlying semantics of bibliographic information and to facilitate the integration, mediation, and interchange of bibliographic and museum information. And we have BIBFRAME, which is our data model for bibliographic description. It is designed to replace MARC standards and to use linked data principles to make bibliographic data more useful both within and outside library communities. And finally, we have linked data, which is our structured data interlinked with other data so it becomes more useful. And it builds upon standard web technologies such as HTTP, RDF, and URIs, but rather than using them to serve web pages for only human readers, it extends them to share information in a way that can be read automatically by computers. So we have all of these words, all of these, pieces of data, these buzzwords that we hear every day in the library industry. But what does it really all mean? Not only what does it mean to library staff, but what does it mean to your patrons? If you go to patrons, some of them may know what a MARC record is, but they really don't care as much about that. As much as I love cataloging records because I used to be a cataloger and that's where I'm coming from, your run-of-the-mill patron really just wants to find the material that they're looking for. So again, what do all of these pieces of data mean? What is the hidden meaning of FRBR, linked data, and BIBFRAME? What does it mean to our libraries? What does it mean to our library patrons? For us, the hidden meaning of these pieces of data is a better search experience, ensuring users can find, identify, and select the materials they seek easily within a library catalog. It's also to improve the usefulness of that catalog when retrieving titles that have multiple editions and formats, as we all do. As libraries, again, collect multiple formats for those books on tape, those large print, those playaways, the ebooks, the e-audiobooks. We have the same titles with many different formats to suit the needs of our patrons. And it also is really, the hidden meaning is to ensure that connecting the same intellectual content is dynamic, sustainable, and can be influenced by library staff. So our libraries need solutions that give them the ability to continue their daily work in a way that doesn't overburden, typically small cataloging departments. So some way to actually bring that data together and serve it up to your patrons. So Carl Connect is looking to pave a path forward. So our minimal viable product, or MVP goals, for our clustered or grouped or Ferberized catalog is to work towards being the first integrated library system to implement a Ferberized or a grouped model. Now, there are other third-party discovery layers out there that do a great job of doing this, and our libraries are free to use them. We, again, love to work with our library partners to be able to bring a patron experience to our libraries that makes the most of what they can for their patrons. But we also think that it should just be part of your standard ILS. We have worked very hard to make Carl Connect Discovery a discovery layer that isn't a discovery layer. It has all of those discovery layer-like features that is part of the base PAC experience for our customers. So with that in mind, we're really looking to say, how do we bring this Ferberized view, or this clustered record view, into Carl Connect Discovery in a way that makes it useful for our customers? With that in mind, we wanted to take a look and update and utilize existing CarlS ILS functionality that will link like intellectual content systematically. This does include the ability for library staff to modify what the system has linked together. We are also looking, our goals were to update Carl Connect Discovery to take advantage of that linked content. So we wanted to be able to see all formats of a title in search results. We wanted to develop what we're calling a trust the user can identify which record best matches their needs. We want navigation to title details to get additional information on a particular title to be available. And we want to retain those location-specific order and location favorites to hone results. So the ability for a patron to be able to go in and say, this is my library. I want to see materials that are available at my library, not just the library system as a whole. So those are things we wanted to keep in place and keep in mind as we were developing. Where we started here was to take a look at what we're calling our intellectual identifiers. And this is going to be most associated with kind of that linked data within the CarlX infrastructure. The idea that as records are added and updated and deleted from the CarlX database through routine interactions that library staff are taking already, we have the ability to assign an intellectual identifier, and we can update them and we can remove them accordingly. Now, with this process, there is a manual linking and unlinking process that are available to appropriate library staff. As intellectual identifiers are being generated by the system, we are creating trusted records and we're assigning them to each IID. And again, as your library staff are doing existing work that they do today with bibliographic records, those trusted records are updated and they're removed as routine work happens within the catalog. With our intellectual identifiers, we've had our proprietary algorithm in place for a while within CarlX. We started this development as we were doing our outreach services for our libraries, the ability to link like content so that library staff would have the ability to say, okay, this patron has checked out this content before. And not only that, they've been able to see when they last checked out this content, not this particular title or not this particular barcode, but more this content. But with that algorithm, we consider the CarlX title and author. And we have the ability to go in and say we expect 80% or more of your connections between like intellectual content content is created dynamically without staff interaction. And that leaves 20% or less of connections that could require staff intervention depending on the state of library data or preference. So in addition to that automatic linking and unlinking just through basic interactions, we also do allow manual linking, which allows breaking and creating links between things that the algorithm isn't able to match. Again, we are looking at, computer-based systems where we're putting in algorithms, so it isn't 100% at all times. As we move forward, again, we have created a trusted record. And why do we need that trusted record within Carl Connect Discovery? So in order to implement our record and title clustering in Carl Connect Discovery, we created a new infrastructure to support display of grouped records for user discovery. And that trusted record is a non-MARC, non-bibliographic record that can have a one-to-one or a one-to-many relationship with bibliographic records within a CARL-X database. Each bibliographic record is going to be in the database is going to have a corresponding trusted record. And that trusted record is created through those automated processes within the CARL system, giving us the ability to, again, systematically employ those. As we then take a look, we utilize those trusted records within Carl Connect Discovery in Carl Connect Discovery Mobile. We can create displays using the trusted record along with all of its linked titles. We looked to update Lucene indexes and record grouping for searching and results display. And we also looked at boosting up search results. Again, as we take a look, we continue to make changes to this, our result boosting, to be able to return the most appropriate search results to the user as they are searching within Carl Connect Discovery. Additionally, for our development, we also looked at updating our web APIs to report changes to those intellectual identifiers and to retrieve trusted record information to be able to serve that up into Carl Connect Discovery. So we did all of this, again, with the idea that we want to serve up this clustered record view to our libraries and to their patrons. Now, all of this work was done in coordination or conjunction with our beta partner libraries to be able to give us feedback and take that information and really update our product to give it a look that suits the needs of our libraries. So I'm going to go ahead and hop over now so we can take a live look. So we are within Carl Connect Discovery today, and we want to take a look at some of our results of our record clusters or title clusters within the system. Now, one of the things that we do like to say is, again, we work with our customers to really market and brand these for their use in their libraries. And we have called our displays kind of a Ferberize view because that means something to libraries. But it doesn't always mean something to patrons. So as we put this out there and our libraries are taking a look, they're reviewing the best way to market it to their patrons. And Ferber, again, means nothing to patrons. So we've gone through some discussions, and they had discussions there and really looked at things like title clusters or title groupings. Again, all of that means something a bit more to our library patrons. So a little bit of a shout out to Somerset County Library in New Jersey, who are going with a title clusters marketing for this catalog here. And that kind of explains what we are doing. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a search here for Pride and Prejudice. So we all know when we do these types of searches, typically with your classics, you have material that comes back and it has been kind of rewritten or published so many times, and your libraries may have many different copies. And prior to our record grouping or our title clusters here, we would have seen page upon page of results for Pride and Prejudice. But you can see here within my results, I have a single view of my results, and then I can see all of the formats that are associated with it. So I can see my library has 52 different titles for books. We have 13 different records for books on CD, 5 for large print, 3 for playaway, 2 for e-audiobook, 2 for ebook, and 1 for audiobook. Again, I can come in here and I can see very easily as a patron that these are the formats that are maintained for this particular title. Now, one of the things that you can see within this particular result is that we have two entries here, one for Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, and one for Pride and Prejudice. Now, in this case, this is going to be, because we are matching on that author and title information, we have records here that don't have an author within the record, so those are grouped together. But you can see this is most useful for your books, your DVDs, your Blu-ray, your VHS, again, bringing them all together to be able to see this information. Now, this is just the very top level within this view, but you can go over and you can see, you can facet or drill down by availability. You can drill down by a series, by collection, by particular form of content. So if you're looking for particular information or a particular publication year, you can do that here. But for those run-of-the-mill customers that are just coming in and saying, I need Pride and Prejudice for a book report, they can come in, very quickly see and drill down to go into the books. Once I click on one of these formats, I go directly into my trusted record view, which gives me a link to all of the associated titles with this trusted record. So within here, I have an easily scannable grid to be able to see all of those titles available. We do show newest publication year first, and if I scroll down, I'm going to see at the bottom is going to be the older copy or the older publication dates as I scroll through. Now, one of the things that we did include here, again, are some of those easily accessible pieces of information. So I have my availability that will display right here. I have the ability to see, again, there is one copy available at all locations. If I was logged into Carl Connect Discovery, it would actually show me what is available at my library. So again, I have the ability to update and see that information. Patrons have the ability to be able to go to that. Maybe I want and particular information directly from this page. I'm going to go over, view all copies associated with this particular title, and you can see from here I have my availability available to me. If I wanted to go back, I have access to see all formats and editions from within this view. So if I've navigated into a particular title and if I want to go back, yes, I can use the back buttons, but I can also go back into my see all formats and editions. Now, what we have done here again is made this very clear within this view. We are bringing in that cover art again to be able to show patrons that information. You can see the red that is showing me that there are no copies for a particular title. You can see I also have access to place holds on material. Now, if I go over to something like an ebook, again, you can see within here, bringing in our integration with Overdrive, I have the ability to download directly from here or place a hold directly on this title from within this view. So I have both of my accessibility points here. If I go into something like Playaway, again, you can see we're pulling out each of those formats. So again, those patrons who are really looking for a specific type of material, they can just navigate to that particular entry without a problem. I'm going to go ahead and do another search here. And you can see, again, with some of those classics, you can see The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. I have grouped together my books, that 23 different titles, 4 different book on CD records, a large print, a Playaway. I can navigate between each of these, see my availability, add these things to a list, share this information from within this view, place a hold, do whatever I need to do within here. Now, there are some options that are available to our libraries to be able to enable call number display or disable call number display or be able to make changes to kind of what is seen here. I'm going to go ahead and go back here. You can see I also have things like, again, you can see my grouping for The Jungle by Clive Cussler. That's an entirely different result, an entirely different title, but again, is The Jungle. If I scroll down, you can see I have The Jungle Book. Again, bringing that in, being able to see all of that information here. Now, as I go into a particular trusted record, my facets will update here so I can navigate to particular entries here. So if I am looking for a particular narrator, might be where I can see this information. So if I, as a user or as a patron, know that I prefer a particular narrator or a particular reader for a book on CD, I can still get to that information and limit down to what I am looking for within this view. Again, we have all of that available here. One of the ones that we do like to talk about again is Harry Potter. That seems to be one of the titles that or series that drive a lot of this information forward, is to being able to see all of those grouped together. So you can see Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. I can very easily see all of the different formats my library carries for these particular titles and be able to either place my hold against it or go to my library shelves and pick them up. So all of those are available there, again, within this view. Now, as we continue to move forward with development, this isn't the end, this is just the beginning, and this is the future. This is how we continue to make changes to this interface, continue to improve our searching results, continue to improve our display based on our library's feedback, based on their patron feedback, because the next step beyond this is to start bringing in place hold buttons. So the ability to do kind of grouped or clustered holds. The idea that as a patron, I want to come in and I don't care what format it is, I want the first book or the first book or book on CD or e-audio book that comes in for Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, because I just want that intellectual content. And then the ability to really scale down and say, well, I would like a book, not a book on CD, but a book. It doesn't matter who the reader is or who the forward is by or what year it was published in, but I want this particular book, versus I want a particular copy. So again, we're going to be talking with our libraries in the upcoming months and bringing together our focus groups to be able to say, what does that look like, so that we can start developing that very soon, because this is the direction we are moving, and we are excited to have our customers introduce this to their patrons and to continue to get more feedback as we move through. Any questions? So looks like here there is a question. Do you have to load MARC records into the catalog for Overdrive integration in PAC to work? Today, yes, that is how our integration does work with Overdrive. We load those bibliographic records in, but then there is integration between Carl Connect Discovery and Overdrive to facilitate the checkout and the hold placement directly from within the catalog. There's a question here. Do you foresee this eventually coming to Library Solution customers? Again, this is something that we work collectively, both between our Inwood office, which is our headquarters, and our Denver office. And though they are two different platforms, we do discuss how we can share the work that we've done to be able to bring that, bring functionality not just to Carl customers, but also Library Solution customers. So we do kind of work through the possibilities and share how we have implemented something, with amongst both offices, so that we can give the benefit to both of our sets of customers. Any other questions? There's a question here for the estimated availability. I am not quite sure what that means. Because for our record grouping or title clusters within Carl Connect Discovery, this is available today in our release to our Carl customers. This is kind of our general release, and we will continue doing in development within the system to continue bringing more enhancements to this interface. There's a question here about what information matches to link a new title to an existing trusted record. We do a check, or the algorithm, the proprietary algorithm that we are looking at is looking at title and author information to be able to link incoming bibliographic records to existing IIDs or intellectual identifiers. So within here, it looks like there's a question about why aren't DVDs and Blu-ray records showing up in the records? Are they missing the proper 700 field? So again, within here, because we are matching within your author and title. In this case, we are not matching up film records because they may not have a 100. They typically do not have a 100. Now they may have a 130, but that is going to be different than the author. So we are not making that connection across. But if libraries would want them to be kind of linked together, they can do that manually to pull those records together. Within CarlX, this is not looking at subject authority files. This is really looking at bibliographic records within the system and linking them together at the bibliographic level. Now, we will continue to monitor the library industry, certainly as more and more speed kind of picks up with BIBFRAME and how we can choose to, how we can utilize that within our ILS. But we wanted to give our customers the ability to do this now rather than waiting until we have, a complete path from MARC to BIBFRAME. This is what our libraries need today, not just the ability to move the records into BIBFRAME, but to really take advantage of this linked data within our discovery interfaces. Today, I'm not going to show the back end of manual editing. That could be something that we can look at, during another, maybe a training webinar. So again, within here, that is something that we wouldn't cover today. Looks like you mentioned you mentioned origins and outreach and patrons being able to see title clusters that they have held or checked out. What does this look like in PAC? In this case, outreach is really all of the staff side. So our outreach functionality exists within CarlX itself. And again, we will look at bringing that forward into Carl Connect staff, but right now there isn't a patron view into that. There's also a question here about the first Harry Potter book in your list has a different title in the UK. Will it be possible to bring those together, and how would that display? So again, this is just going to be the ability to manually link those together. So the algorithm, again, for Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, it would treat that as its own intellectual identifier, but you could simply use the client, the CarlX client, to link those together. Again, you kind of choose which one is kind of the trusted record, or let the system choose which one is the trusted record. And then as you go in, say, to this particular interface, you would see Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone because you have manually linked those together. And then there's a question here about, can items be linked to fill a common hold queue? That is not yet there. That is development that we will be undertaking, not this year, but in the upcoming year, because we do want to focus group with our customers to have the best possible interface for that, because holds, again, you have kind of your IID hold or intellectual content hold versus a format hold versus a hold against a particular title. Right now, there's a question here about what if we don't like the summary that appears on the trusted record? Can we control that summary and where it comes from? Today, that wasn't part of our MVP goal. Our MVP goal was really to link those records together and be able to pull in that information. Again, further development down the road we do want to give that ability to our libraries to be able to manage what is displaying in that trusted record and still be able to pull content from places like Syndetics in the content server, etc. In this case, there's a question here for if graphic novels would have a separate button or would be included under books. In this case, it would be included under books because it is a separate, again, format here that is based on the book format facet. But again, this is something that in the future we are looking at having our formats be a little bit more malleable within Carl Connect Discovery and CarlX staff to be able to have things like graphic novels and, all of those kind of genre type pieces of information. Any other questions? All right, well, I am going to say thank you and turn it back over to Jameson. I appreciate your time and look forward to doing more development in the future of PACs.
Okay, Ebony, thank you very much for conducting that webinar. That was incredibly put together, and I do promise that I will try to use the term Ferberize in conversations much more than I currently do. That was a good one. I do want to address a question that was raised regarding the development priorities and if this was going to be coming to the library.solution product. At this point, I would like to remind everyone that is on this call that the Library Corporation does currently have 2 library management platforms. We have CarlX, which is Carl Connect is part of, and we have library.solution, also known as LS, LS2. But we do have 2 distinct different platforms. As we develop these platforms and as these platforms evolve, our teams do have different priorities and have established different roadmaps when it comes to development features. A great example of that would be the work that Carl has done on working Ferberization into their discovery layer. And meanwhile, last week's webinar that TLC provided was on LS2 inventory, which is specific to the library.solution module, on the LS2 module. These teams do work independently from each other and do have different prioritizations as well as different roadmaps. The work that was currently done on Ferber is specific to Carl. Now, a great place to hear about what our development roadmaps are is we have an annual user conference for our customers every year. That conference is known as TLCU. I'm sure there are some people on this webinar that have attended that conference in the past. It does rotate all over the country, and as of now, we are planning on being in the fall in Norfolk, Virginia. A great place for you to have an idea of what our roadmap is, how our roadmap is changing, and having the ability to talk to our product owners that establish what those roadmaps are at TLCU. So I would highly recommend attending TLCU. Our Carl customers will be able to get information on TLCU in the Carl community platform, and those that are on library.solution can always get into the LS community site as well and get information on how you can register to attend TLCU. Again, Ebony, thank you very much for attending that session. I will say that our next webinar for next Wednesday has not been posted yet, but we are going to be posting that here shortly. That is going to be a session that I am actually going to be conducting myself. And the title of that session is At Your Data Service. And what we're going to talk about in this session is the importance of the data that is feeding your discovery layers, like Ebony was talking about right now. We're going to talk about more alphabet soup initials, things like RDA and other types of data structure. And what I will get into is services that TLC has invented, such as eBibliophile, that allows you to get full RDA records for your Overdrive and Biblioteca records, as well as RDA Express, which is a program that will actually go through your existing MARC data and RDA-ize your data, if not already RDA. So that will be next Wednesday's webinar that I will be conducting. The registration link will be posted shortly for that. I would like to thank everybody for attending today's webinar. Thank you very much for attending. Please stay safe, stay healthy, stay socially distant, and we will see you next Wednesday. Thank you.